John, Sarah, and also to our colleague Tony, who's on the call, to take evidence about what's going on with the waterways and pollution in our local borough. We have an agenda, which I think has been shared beforehand. We'll now, I suggest we now kick off and, well, in the sense of keeping it a bit formal, I declare the meeting open and suggest we go through the agenda as we go along. So thank you. Esther, thank you for managing the attendance. The meeting is recorded and it's a public meeting. It will be available after the call on the Bracknell Forest website. If you have any, if this is not if you do not want to participate under these circumstances, then you will have to dial off now at this point in time. Okay. Well, point one is the apologies for absence and substitute members. Esther, could you kindly, for the record, repeat the apologies which you have received?
We've received apologies from Councillor Brown and Councillor Ajaz.
Okay. I think we are not complete regardless. Who is absent?
We're missing Councillor O'Regan and Councillor Watts.
Right, I think Councillor Foster is also absent today. Okay. Okay, moving on. Declarations of interest and party whip. We have any member here is asked to declare any disclosable pecuniary affected interest and the nature of that interest, including existence and nature of the party whip in respect of any matter to be considered at this meeting. Do we have anybody with a disclosable pecuniary interest on the meeting? I mean, I presume, John, Sarah, and Michael, good evening, by the way, you understand what the disclosable pecuniary interest is. So if fundamentally, if you're, yeah, okay, good. Okay,
I suppose Thames 21 is a rivers charity. We are, a charity, deliver our charitable objectives, which is restoring river health.
Yeah.
But we're our business as well. So, those are disclosable elements.
I think it's this would bring us to the next thing, the affected interest, which means that you might be affected by the discussions in this call, but do not have I think a direct financial interest or I don't know what the definition is by heart. I just have to say, for the thing, I am actually having to declare an affected interest. I'm a civil engineer. The business I'm working for undertakes work on behalf of Thames Water from time to time. I'm personally involved in such works from time to time as well. Anybody else has an affected interest to declare?
Yeah, I suppose, Thames 21,
Yep.
as this is a Thames Water scrutiny side of things, Thames 21 does receive funding from Thames Water. We undertake due diligence, with all of the funding that we get from private sector organisations. It makes up, at our last review, makes up about 7% of our income. We ensure that no money that we receive from Thames Water affects the organisation's view. The other thing is Sarah is funded by, she is the Catchment Partnership Development Officer, if I got that right. And that the catchment partnerships do receive funding from Thames Water, but again, we ensure that funding does not affect the views that are taken as part of that process.
Okay. We have 3 hands up. So Tina, your hand was up first.
Hi, and hi, Sarah. Nice to see you. Can I just say, John, what you're saying is, although you take funding, you are still a critical friend. Okay, answer done. Thank you very much indeed.
Okay. Anything else, Tina, at this point?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael, good evening and hello in person. Good to see you.
Hello, thanks for inviting me to your meeting. I'm Mike Hutchins. I work for the UK Centre for Ecology and Hydrology. So we're a charity. We're rather similar in many ways to the Rivers Trust. So, and similar also in that we do receive funding for research, for independent and objective research, which we do. Personally, I haven't received funding directly from Thames Water, but we do receive as an organisation from Thames Water.
Thank you, Michael. Anything else at this point? No, I think, okay, cool. Dorothy, you have your hand up as well.
Yes, I will apologise if there's a little head next to me, everyone, as you can see, but my views are that of developers and large developers. You will at all times, Sarah and John, give if given statements or anything, if I request, is there in connection with a development near a certain water that you will be able to give over to us clearly, because it is the developers that will be the part of this, I'm sure, policies making. It is the constructural part that I'm concerned with.
Can I just ask clarification on that? Do you mean developers as in housing and business developers? Construction?
Yes, construction.
Yeah, but that doesn't include green infrastructure, so like council renovation of spaces, and it doesn't include Thames Water itself.
It is the development and the connections with developments for policies for the future of what we are designing and putting into place.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we'll have I'll have a quick run through our actual agreed objective and scope of this panel going forward, so we are clear about what this panel is all about, and we're all singing from the same hymn sheet. Do we have, okay, public participation would be number 3 on the agenda. Do we have any other submissions from the public, Esther?
No, there's been no submissions from the public.
Okay, good. Okay, item 4 is introduction from the chair of the panel, which would be me. My name is Christoph Eberle. I'm a civil engineer by profession, working for an engineering consultancy called Mott MacDonald. We are active globally, and my activities are fundamentally shafts, tunnels, everything which is rounded underground. That's pretty much what I do. I'm having attained the position of a technical director in this business, and insofar I believe I'm relatively knowledgeable about the implementation of that infrastructure. This panel was suggested by our local council, the Borough Council. We had received, so to say, we had received a suggestion to go ahead with reviewing what Thames Water is doing locally and how we can improve the quality of our local waterways going forward. The questions which we took from this loose brief is which options are available to Bracknell Forest Council to effect changes resulting in reduced frequency and impact of Thames Water operational sewage discharges, and which collaboration opportunities with other affected local authorities exist. These are the key questions. You're our witnesses here, which link to one of our points which we want to do in the first stage of the review, which is to reach out and identify local and regional stakeholders to start and engage with a cross-borough forum for coordination with Thames Water. Ultimately, that's if you're taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture, we are supposed to advise our local borough how they can bring people together in a sense that we are creating a one voice speaking for the local residents and potentially also across the boroughs affected by Thames Water, to engage with Thames Water in a more meaningful manner than by this local authority, this charity, that charity. Combining our forces is the understanding of what we want to do. There are other aspects of this review, however, they might not affect us in this particular witness session. My fellow councillors will also obviously will have specific questions relating to the the brief, and also relating to other aspects of that brief. But the main thing is really, we want to understand what you're doing. If you're already linked up with other in a wider sense, inside, outside the borough, if you're contributing to working groups, what these working groups are, and whether you are happy to collaborate with a Bracknell Forest working group. This is the witness session number 5. We have afterwards an update from Councillor Virgo, who is also on the call, who will confirm what the councillors and the borough has done in the past already. After that, we will have a question session. I suggest we keep the question session really separate, so we create a panel discussion and we can all contribute to the questions which are asked. With that, I suggest we start with the witness session. We have you, John, as the headliner here, Head of Improving Rivers at Thames 21. And I would suggest that, the floor is yours, James. Give us John, apologies, cracky. Give us a little introduction about Thames 21, what you're doing, and what your potential role in this setup is, please.
Yeah, so I suppose I'll give a start, but I'm going to bring in Sarah quite quickly around sort of the local stuff, because Sarah's our local lead. I suppose Thames 21 is a Rivers Trust, and we were set up over 20 years ago as an independent charity. And my personal background is I worked in the Environment Agency in the biodiversity section nearly a decade ago now. And that, I was there for about 7 years. I've been doing this for well over 15 years, working in rivers. I suppose, and I was brought into Thames 21 to really drive that, restoration of ecosystems. And we always do that in a collaborative approach. So we deliver lots of partnerships with local authorities, with community groups, with other NGOs, with statutory organisations as well as water companies. So yeah, and I think we can probably send you a link to this, post you a link. Sort of we've recently won a award for local nature recoveries from the Ashton Award. That's linked to the Sainsbury's family, and there's quite a nice video which is a couple of minutes long, which you can have a look at outside of this meeting. We'll send a link to that. I suppose, briefly, in terms of water quality, I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, and it didn't take too long for me to get quite tired to see that the regulatory approach to improving water quality wasn't working. And since I left the Environment Agency, that regulatory approach has got worse, for whatever reason that is. So what we have pioneered is, and this is with partners, obviously, because that is how we work, we have pioneered the development and delivery of nature-based solutions to improve the quality of water. Now, that includes the use of what we call constructed wetlands. So if you're familiar with sustainable drainage systems, they are really, I suppose, big suds in public spaces, which are at the end of pipe of your drainage area. So in effect, what you are doing there is you are treating all the pollution from that drainage area, which is obviously, in terms of your effect, much better. And that can be, sewage derived pollution, and also, you know, road runoff derived pollution. And what we try to, we ensure they do, you know, communities are involved in those processes, have an input to them, and in actual fact, they improve the quality of the green space, and in actual fact, you know, the usability of communities. So, you know, it becomes a bit of a hub for community life. We, and Sarah might talk more about this, but we are just about to release a tool. We've already produced it for London and released it, and but the tool will be now produced in the area which covers all of Bracknell, as I understand. Is that correct, Sarah?
Yeah, it'll cover Bracknell Forest Council boundary area.
And that is what we call as the road runoff pollution solution tool. So what we've done is we've quantified the road runoff pollution, and then we've identified the solutions to it using nature-based solutions. So that is SUDS, but it is also constructed wetlands. We know that it's not the complete picture because some of the data input, such as Thames Water's asset data, is pretty poor. So that's a very brief overview of some of our work, but I want to introduce, because one of the other things that we do is we host catchment partnerships. And catchment partnerships are a key mechanism to bringing. So I suppose when you talk about catchment planning, you know, that could be done in a very top-down process. Do stop me if any of you know what catchment partnerships are. What we try to do with catchment partnerships is take that from a top-down process, i.e. government. We try to do it on a sideways, so where government, communities, authorities, NGOs, partnerships can talk collaboratively and develop collaborative action, and, you know, then drive that implementation. So we host a number of these partnerships, including the Maidenhead to Thames catchment partnership, which Sarah hosts, and is you know, a way to bring people together, and, you know, that's where Bracknell sit as well. So over to you, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you, John. Yeah, just to add to that from a more kind of slightly more local perspective to Bracknell, the Catchment Partnership has a working group for Bracknell that's been set up in the past few months, really, that so far consists of myself, my kind of equivalent catchment coordinator from the Environment Agency, Ian from Bracknell Town Council comes along, so does Rosie, council, as well as the ranger team and some local community groups. And that's really led to some local projects getting kicked off in the Bracknell area, such as the Outfall Safari that happened in 2022. And then since then, we've recently been working on a successful bid for community action for the cut, which is all centred around volunteer-led days to restore a section of the cut through Garth Meadows, and a focus on what the volunteer groups are wanting to kind of drive forward. So as part of that project, we've led the Thames 21 Leading Action for Healthy Rivers course, as well as a Riverfly training day. And we'll be working further with that working group once the road runoff pollution solutions tool goes live, hopefully very soon. And there'll soon to be an element of citizen science to be rolled out alongside that as well.
I think you're on mute.
A classic, isn't it? Thank you, John. No, I just want to say, John and Sarah, thanks a lot. I took notes and we'll come back to you when we take the questions. The next one to speak is Michael. If the floor is yours.
No, thank you. Yes, my background is I work for the UK Centre for Ecology and Hydrology, and I'm an environmental scientist, and my speciality is in river water quality, basically. And the connection with Bracknell, well, we've been, myself and John and Sarah, we've been working together in the last couple of years to try and develop initiatives which be funded, if successful, by the Research Council, the Natural Environment Research Council, essentially, and developing some initiatives to take some of the activities that John and Sarah have been talking about, to take them a little further, and hopefully add some innovations which could really positively affect the river environment in the town. So that's my connection with the Rivers Trust. It's on the research side. My sort of experience working in the Bracknell area. Well, we ran once again a Research Council funded project quite a few years ago now. It was 2013 to 2016, and we did a lot of monitoring in the cut. And we worked with the Environment Agency, who helped. They were commissioned to do some monitoring as well. So we monitored river flows and some water quality parameters in the cut. Some quite detailed continuous monitoring, and that data is all available, publicly available for anybody to look at, and for other researchers to analyze, basically. And more recently, we've also, using that data, we've done some mathematical modelling. So we've set up some models that simulate the hydrology, the river flows, and the water quality in the rivers in Bracknell, and those models are capable of looking at the impacts of different interventions, different management interventions. And well, like the Rivers Trust, really, we're very interested in the potential for sustainable urban drainage, for like nature-based solutions to benefit water quality. And we at CEH we've been working on projects recently where we look not only at the water quality benefits of the nature-based solutions, but also what other benefits they might have, like for improving air quality and for improving, essentially for improving public health in a variety of ways. So yes, that's really my background to this. So
unmuting myself before I talk this time, I can learn. Thank you very much, Michael. Much appreciated. Similarly, I took questions, and we'll come back to you in number 7 questions. We now have item number 6, which is the update from Councillor Tony Burgle. Tony, floor is yours.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman, very much. Well, look, I'm not a scientist, clearly, and I suppose I just responded to a problem down here in Winkford Row, which was sewage over spills over a period of years. So that's how I got into this, really. And I worked with the locals, local residents who did a lot of work on this with Thames Water. So following that, I arranged a visit to the sewage works at Bracknell to have a look personally of what it's like. So a small number of councillors, Adrian was there as well, actually. We visited it on the 17th of May of this year, and David Harding from Thames Water showed us around the site. The complex, I'm just reading because I wrote some notes. The complex is fully automated with a handful of workers to operate the system, and regular samples of water are taken to make sure the organic filtration process is working satisfactory. There can be problems to this process, which is caused by chemicals arriving through the sewers that affect the organic process. And we were told that there was a serious incident that did occur but they were able to trace this back through the sewers to the culprit and find them, interestingly. They also have huge holding tanks that can retain stormwater and slowly release it into the system when the flow reduces. We did observe one huge tank that was out of action and needed investment to operate. It's quite clear, Mr. Chairman, that further installation of holding tanks would relieve the situation of heavy rains and massive flows. We must remember, I think, that climate change will increase the veracity of storms and the quantity of rainfall. So while Mr. Harding said that the plant could cope with a population of 250,000, the trouble comes when we receive heavy rains. Surface water from land and roads end up in the sewers. I am sure members have witnessed water spurting up from manhole covers during storms as the system cannot cope. And the result of this is that Bracknell sewage works are allowed to discharge into streams and water courses. This can result, as we know, in discharges containing raw sewage, harmful pathogens, viruses and bacteria destroying our environment. So I see this, Mr. Chairman, as two problems. One is land drainage. And England opted out of the third part of the water bill in 2010 that suggested a separate agency to look at land drainage with legal powers. It intended to beef up our current SUDS arrangement with experts in the field that have legal powers to implement solutions that would prevent surface water entering the sewer system. Now, however, there's amendment which is currently going through Parliament to put that right. And hopefully at some point, if this government is still in operation, we will oversee new arrangements for land drainage and sustainable drainage. That's the plan. And interestingly enough, Copenhagen, I don't know if people had seen this actually, Copenhagen have a completely different system whereby they have pipes for land drainage going into a system, and they have pipes for sewage going into a different system. But of course, this was called a huge amount of money. So the last part is the local sewer infrastructure. Now, as a lot of our housing stock is older, unfortunately, rainwater runs into the foul sewer system. There's not a lot we can do about it. There is also a problem in adequate infrastructure, and this is the case in Wingfield Road. Now, this is a case study where capacity is at the upper limit, and sewer pipes join at Brock Hill are of all different sizes, which obviously cause a huge problem. And after considerable pressure to Thames Water and seeing many raw sewage discharges into the cuts, they agreed to clean the pipes and install a monitoring device in Bracknell Road. This they did. This would alert engineers if there's a problem and possibly say back out to houses. However, I received, Mr. Chairman, which infuriates me, to be honest, a note from Thames Water saying as they've cleaned the pipes, they no longer need to put a monitoring device into the system. So I wrote clearly back and said, well, it's purely cost cutting. And I think that's something we should take up because it's not acceptable. And also in the new water bill is the right to connect. They've removed it so that developers of houses over 12 houses and more must get permission from Thames Water. There's also a section on grey water as well. And so very lastly, I just just add this. I think Oxfordshire have gone a lot further actually. And what they've done is they've gone to Thames Water and got an agreement that planning applications of 12 must get approval from Thames Water regarding sewage arrangements and agree upgrades to the system with finance in place before they submit a planning application. I passed this information to Sue Halliwell, and planning, and I understand this will be discussed at the Berkshire Leaders meeting to pursue. But this, Mr. Chairman, must be the way forward for us with so much development. And of course, I think John mentioned that, you know, we've got to continue to monitor the water courses and report. So that's my wind up, sir.
Thank you, Tony. Councillor Virgo. Thanks for titulating me Mr. Chairman. I felt quite elevated here. So I'm a facilitator.
But you are the chairman.
Yeah, well, I am sure, but no chip on the shoulder, you know.
No worries.
Okay, John, do you want to comment immediately, or should we move to the questions? Because you have your hand up.
Yeah, if I could provide some comments there. I suppose you mentioned about the Copenhagen system. In actual fact, that's a system which is in the majority of the Thames Basin already. And, you know, it's a system which isn't really working. And that's why you're getting that inflow of water into the sewage treatment works, the rainwater. Really, that should be going to the river, but those pipes are there. Now, that partly is households misconnecting into the foul sewer. But we are beginning to uncover this evidence, and this is a bit more London evidence than it is Bracknell case, but I think it's something. Oh, sorry. Do you want me to stop?
No. Carry on, please.
So what we are finding is that, in actual fact, the pipe in the surface water system is connected with the sewage system. So what you're actually seeing in a lot of cases is the foul water going into the sewage, going into the surface water system and the river, and you're actually also seeing the surface water, the rainwater, going into the foul system. Now, when Thames Water do pollution investigations on the sewage outfalls, they do fix these, but they do not record what their fixes are. So we do not. So there is not a history to this sort of, you know, where they are actually fixing their issues, and therefore there isn't necessarily, there cannot be developed a business case for taking more proactive solutions to that. And that's a really key issue around CSO pollution, you know, from sewage works, and also from pollution from misconnections as well.
Okay.
Sorry about that,
John.
Jeff.
No, thank you for providing the supplementary information to Councillor Burgos' points. Tina, the floor is yours. You wanted to make a comment. You wanted to talk.
I do, and it is with great remiss that I haven't shared with you, Christoph. Sorry,
Christoph.
Yes, I know, Christoph. That I didn't share with you the project that I've devised over the last 3 or 4 months, which deals with our waterways in the whole of Bracknell Forest. So Sarah knows because she's coming to our meetings. So it's Ian and I from Bracknell Town Council have devised the project. It's called the Big Event. What I'd like to do, if I could, Christoph, is invite you to our next meeting. It will be on Teams. And I believe it's the 12th of December. Let me just go into my diary just
I think it might be the 14th, Tina, off the top of my head.
It's what, that?
I think it might be the 14th.
It is the 14th, yeah, but yeah, my diary is, pardon the pun, very fluid at the moment. Yes, it's 14th and it's at 10 o'clock. Would that suit you, Christoph? I will keep you no more than 2 or 3 minutes, or we could have an off-the-piece conversation and I will show you the PowerPoint. Because
Tina, that's fine. Please send the invite. I can't confirm this point at this point because I need to check my work commitments, obviously.
Absolutely, I absolutely agree. I absolutely know. But it is apropos about all of this, and it will take the whole of Bracknell Forest into account with our waterways. I haven't publicised the whole of it yet for the simple reason it has to go to the board, the Climate Change Board. to be ratified in order for the project to go forward. But I would very much like you to know what I've proposed. So possibly I can send you the PowerPoint anyway.
Go ahead. Would you mind?
Meanwhile,
yeah, with pleasure. Councillor Watts would also like to have to attend and get the PowerPoint, if that's all right.
No, I need to keep it very close at the moment because it needs to go in front of Mary. I mean, she is the.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you're a chair, so I want to keep it at that level. I hope Jodie understands, but it would need to do that before we go to the next step, which then will include the rest of the councillors and their patches and their communities.
Okay.
So it has. So that's the level. That's the organisation chart. Okay. So I'll pop it across to you with the invitation, and Sarah, Ian, Davis, and I will be meeting on the 14th of December before the board meeting, which is January, I believe. So just for the rest of the team to ratify it, to make sure that this is an acceptable project, and it's for our waterways, so we're all on point.
Okay.
Thank you, and sorry to have interrupted. Thank you so much.
That's all right. Any information is good information. I like that. Thank you so much. Okay, we now move forward to item 7, which is the questions from the members of the panel to our guests here or witnesses. And well, do we have any questions? Dorothy, Councillor Hayes?
Yes. And of course, we've now learned to say Christoph. Having said that, most people call me Dot, Sarah, and that. John,
whatever you prefer.
No, Dot is easy because then there's no confusion. My question is, it's okay saying the waterworks and all the rest of it, but most people don't realise the one thing about Bracknell, and I'll say Bracknell, not the forest part, is that we are a land that goes that way. We have a lot of bogland. Yes. And it is the structure. We can have all these designs and things and climate whatsits, but it is at the end of the day is getting the material structure in place, and that is where I think the future comes. Can you tell me with yourselves that you are working at policies that incorporate planning? It is the development of things that is causing the most problems. Tony brought up just recently in Wingfield, I was called out to this particular problem, and it was being put at the local people. It didn't turn out to be that, because once I went into it and structurally looked at it, it was the developers near a area of guttering and more land that was causing the problem, because the structure of was not going into what was supposed to be the design element. And at the end of the day, I think we do come down. What are we doing about the structural policies?
So your question, Dorothy, if I may paraphrase a little bit, is does any of the stakeholders which are represented here in this meeting also develop potential policies which could be implemented at the planning level?
Exactly. We have to get that on board. It is at the end of the day, it is the structure. We can do all we like with regards whether we cannot change, but we do need to bring back into line the structure policies on planning.
Okay, thank you. Dot, may I ask, okay, our panelists, Sarah, John, then Michael, and also Tony. Tony, you have your hand up. You were first. I see that. Please raise your hand if you want to comment. Tony, I'll give you the word for the first round.
Well, it's just that I just wanted to make this stronger, actually, as Dorothy has started this dialogue about planning. I mean, it is extremely frustrating. I think she will and concur this in the planning committee, because we ask questions about sewage, and frankly, Christoph, we get nowhere, frankly. And I think it's really, people aren't satisfied by the planning system, whereby have our officers talk to the engineers, have the engineers replied. The whole system, frankly, is a jamboree, because what happens is the developers go to the customer service, which I think is at Swindon, and they just, record it and probably won't give anything back because no one gives anything back. So, I'm not, as a member, convinced that adequate thought has been given to the sewage system. I'm really not. And of course, at the moment, it's the developers have the right to connect through the law. So I think if you go to Thames Water, they will also be totally frustrated with it, because they say, the right to connect means we can't really have any control over it. They don't check. I mean, this is another problem, I might add. Nobody checks the connection of, a big development to the main sewer. Nobody checks it. So it could be bad. It could be leaking sewage, and does, frankly. So, it's really a shoddy system, Christoph. I don't know how we as members can say enough is enough. This has got to improve. And I don't know what power we have. But we have a lot of power vocally, I think. So
yeah. Now, okay, that's what the overview and oversight and scrutiny this panel will come out with. But okay, Tony, I hear what you say. I think your point is well made. But now let's talk to John, who is on our witness list here to provide some insights on what they're doing in terms of planning policies, if they are in a position to do something.
Just some context around that. It's in some ways it's worse. With development control and sort of, nowadays that doesn't need to be approved by councils, but developers can get that approved by their own independent consultants, and sometimes they don't even go to site. And there's a case which has happened in London where this all happened, and once it went through to delivery, they plumbed a whole block of flats into the river directly. So when the people started moving in, they literally just, all of their sewage was going straight into the river because it was, just really poor building control. So that sort of highlights this. It's pretty shocking.
It is.
The other thing that I would sort of say on this is, so partly what and Thames Water are obviously, all water companies, all of us are very frustrated around this lack of control and lack of, integration of water assets into developments. However, that the extent of that impact can be quite local. So if you've got I don't know how much of Bracknell is being developed, but say it's like 1-2% in 20 years, that the effect of that development will be very localized, because obviously the drainage infrastructure changes from area to area, and if that drainage and if a development takes up a larger proportion of that drainage impact, it will have a significant greater impact. Now, that can be positive and negative. If you're redeveloping a hard standing area and you're integrating sustainable drainage systems, you can significantly reduce the runoff from that, and therefore significantly reduce the pressure on the sewage system. So development doesn't need to be all bad. It can actually be quite positive if it's done in the right way. Putting in place the policies and practices around that is critical to ensuring its effectiveness. What's also critical is that Thames Water actually communicate where these issues are. What is often the case is they don't communicate that. So I would sort of say that's where there needs to be better integration and communication of the real risks and the solutions.
Okay.
Now, there has been some monitoring or modelling which is undertaken about nature-based solutions, and Arcadis are doing a bit for the whole of London, where they're semi-automated a model which identifies where are the priority locations to reduce flood risk and also sewage infrastructure using nature-based solutions. At the beginning of this, I mentioned about the 1%. Generally development over X period of time only looks at 1-2% of area. We know, existing without the effects of climate change, that there is huge issues with the sewage infrastructure. We know that particularly in Bracknell because the Cut is one of the most polluted rivers in the lower Thames region. And so there's already, and a lot of that seems to be sewage derived. Maybe Michael could confirm that from a scientific perspective as opposed to what I'm saying. Now, with climate change, that is only going to get much worse. Just retrofitting 1-2% of area with suds through sustainable drainage systems will only deliver a certain amount. Where we need to get to with our urban infrastructure is not just retrofitting development sites, but retrofitting at scale, wider across the whole urban infrastructure, obviously prioritizing where that does because of local problems, and making sure what is installed is as cost effective and as impactful, not just from a water perspective but also from a people impact. We know that that there's evidence that blue-green infrastructure does a lot for quality of life, improvement of well-being, sense of place. And so that's where policy and practice around not just controlling development but also retrofitting and financing the improvement of the whole urban infrastructure is really essential if we're going to deliver healthy places, quality neighbourhoods, and also healthy rivers, healthy sewage systems.
No, thank you very much, John. Tony, I see you have your hand up, but I just want to remind you, you're here as a witness. So
sorry, Mr. Chairman, I'm too easy. Actually.
If you have it's all right. If you're all right with 30 seconds talk time, then go for it, Tony.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much. I'm with John, except that Thames Water. The whole thing is wrong, Mr. Chairman, and it takes a lot to sort this out, and this government certainly hasn't done that. And I think that Thames Water will say to you, there's lots of things which they cannot control. They have no legal powers, first of all. The council have legal powers. Thames Water can't. So they can't come along and tell a developer, you've got to do this. The developer can say, well, so what? We're going to do what we want. So there's, that has to be sorted out. And until we do that, but that's a minor thing in some ways, as John said, because it's a much bigger issue with land drainage. And that's really something we've got to get to grips with very quickly.
That was
30 seconds,
45, but that's fine. Thank you, Tony. Tina, you have your hand up first. Adrian is number 2. Tina, please.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. On notes, the other evening I was at another meeting and it says the Water Authority is not a statutory consultee on planning applications, which I find abysmal. They should be. How can we change that?
That's what I brought up all along. I don't want to interrupt you, but at the very beginning, I kept telling you all it is down to planning that we need to get policies.
Okay, I think this is one outcome which we might discuss amongst us to communicate to the council. But I think let's continue with the witnesses while they're here.
Thank you.
Enjoy their presence. And Adrian, you're next, please.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everyone. So John mentioned that the Cut is one of the most polluted rivers in the Lower Thames region. Just wondering, when we're thinking about sort of pollution in Bracknell, do we know what proportion of this pollution is within Thames water sphere of influence? And also, can we describe what proportion of this would be due to treatment work discharges as opposed to pollution from surface water drainage? Thanks.
Michael, is that something that I feel you might be better placed to answer, having done sort of some of the research on this?
Yes, I couldn't give you numbers, good quantitative estimates for that, but I think it's fair to say the majority would come from treated wastewater. The majority of that pollution. I think that is definitely the larger of the contributors. The difficulty in the Cut is that there's, compared to other rivers in the Thames region, there's much less dilution from surface waters, dilution of effluents, and this is why this is the main reason why we find the Cut has high concentration of pollutants.
Okay, so I have a follow-up question on that one, Michael. Thank you. But isn't that well? Then the mixture isn't right, isn't it? If you said that the treated wastewater is causing the majority of the pollution of the Cut, and the problem is one of dilution, then maybe the discharge license, put it that way, needs to be reviewed. If the mixture is not correct, if you need a certain threshold of clean or surface water to bring the mixture of treated wastewater and surface water to an acceptable limit, then well, we can't regulate what comes in from the surface, can we? But we can regulate what Thames water is discharging into the Cut. So is there a deficiency in the licensing here? Is there anything to pick up on? I don't know.
Yeah, so often partly why this is, the Cut is, headwater stream. There's a lot of, water which goes down the central Thames. When sewage is treated to the standard, it is treated to a concentration. So if that concentration is of high volume if that treated effluent is a high concentration, or is that concentration and it's a high proportion of the overall flow in the river, that's when it becomes, which is what Michael's sort of saying. And that's sort of, generally at low flows, as I understand it. But then there's obviously the spate flowed, the CSO, where there's rainfall, and then, that provides further pollution. And it's also where, where there are misconnected households, which are, and cross connections going from the foul into the surface water, which goes to the river. When that occurs at drought times, or at low flow times, or in a river which is very small with little flow, it has much more significant impact. So
Yeah,
that's sort of some of the reasons why the Cut is most polluted.
Yeah, but that wouldn't be the treated wastewater, wouldn't it? That would be untreated wastewater if it's the misconnections.
Yeah, that would be untreated, yes.
Okay.
But the treated effluent, the same principle applies. If it's a small stream and there's a high proportion of treated effluent, it's much more impactful.
Right. Okay, but is there any way to control or to control the volume Thames water can discharge into the Cut through licensing or any other regulatory means? Nothing.
As it's an existing license, and probably I don't know the license specifically, but an old license, they have that right to discharge. What the Environment Agency, and through the asset management process, which is every 5 years, Thames Water apply for funding to upgrade their sewage treatment works or upgrade their infrastructure. Now that has to be approved by the Environment Agency and by Ofwat. So that's when they can, upgrade their, they can buy several million, 100 million to do enhanced treatment processes at their sewage treatment works. So I don't know if they're planning to do that in 25 to 2030 in Bracknell.
Right. Okay. The reason I have my hand up is I have a question on my own. This one goes to Michael. You said you did a bit of research in the 2010s in the Bracknell Forest area, and you managed to secure funding for that. Do you have anything teed up going forward as well in our area? And is there a funding pot which you think might be possible might be tappable to fund further research you might be interested to do?
Well, this is a good question. There are funding programs, European coordinated funding programs that we are applying for funds from, and they are tending to have quite a strong focus on green infrastructure, and the consequences of establishing green infrastructure. And this is very relevant for Bracknell. So yeah, we are pursuing that quite strongly. The research councils have funding too, but I think they have similar focus, but they tend to work sort of in programs. So you may have a program that lasts for a period of a few years, and then maybe that area, there is less activity in that area for a while. Whereas I think it's probably fair to say the European programs, there are calls kind of quite frequently which are suitable for funding. Aside from that, we are, as an organisation, we are doing some work with Thames Water to help understand some of these problems that we're talking about. That there aren't sort of advertised programs as such to help with funding in that respect. So I think it's fair to say, at a more kind of local level, in terms of potential local customers, local funders, that it's not straightforward. And I think we tend to look more at national, international scale to really try to take forward state of the art monitoring and assessment and innovations.
Okay, no, thank you very much, Michael. I'll lower my hand, and Councillor Watts, Jody, you have a question.
Hiya, I was just wondering, I have a question for Michael. Would we be able to look at your research when it's published? And my other question is to Christoph, Admirable Chairman. I'm sorry if I have missed this or anything, but could you quantify for me what exactly is our goal eventually? Are we going to publish our findings, or are we going to take it further? What is our end goal here once we gather all this evidence?
Okay, Michael, your first question was for you.
Publications, yes. I've just put in the chat, there's a link to the Thames Basin monitoring program that we've been running since 2009, and this is a link. Actually, well, hopefully this probably isn't directly helpful, because it is a few years old, this particular link, so it's only got data up to 2013. But we've made available data. I can't recall exactly how recently, probably within the last 5 years. So there's been an update to this data set. This includes the cut. It includes the cut downstream of Binfield, which has been monitored since 2009. So that's the basic data. The The other data, well, the project I mentioned, which we ran from 2013 to 2016 in Bracknell, that data is also publicly available. I can, I can't, I wouldn't be able to find that very quickly for you now, but I can forward that on, and you can then access that, and that will tell you quite a lot about flood events in the cut, basically over a 2-year period it was. And there's another piece of work which I can't send to you at the moment because it's under peer review, but we have a publication which did some modelling assessments of the cut, and it looked at phosphorus concentrations. So phosphorus is a main pollutant in sewage effluent, largely point source, but also from agriculture and other surface land surface sources. We have a paper that's hopefully coming out in the next 2 months, which looked at some future scenarios in terms of managing phosphorus in the river and thinking about and assessing tree planting in the town as a means to reduce phosphorus transport to rivers. And also it looked, I can't recall the details now, but we looked, I think, at the problem, some of the problems of managing the Binfield sewage treatment works at high flows and what impact the difficulties of treating at high flows would have on the further downstream. So yes, that's hopefully coming out soon, but I can't provide you with a copy of that at the moment, unfortunately. But
yeah.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
Okay,
Thank
and no, well,
no
to answer your question, generally, Jodie, fundamentally, we want to find out what's going on actually regarding the River Thames. What interfaces do we have with Thames Water? What interfaces do other stakeholders who are active in this area have? And how can we consolidate all of that into an action plan or into a recommendation for engagement for our council? I think that's my brief in summary. So we're hearing the witnesses to understand the background.
Brilliant. Thank you, Krista.
My pleasure. Adrian, please.
Okay, so this may be a bit answered a bit in some of Michael's last response about the data. But am I correct in saying Thames 21 have been working on a centralised pollution logging system to record all ongoing pollution events? And assuming so, are you able to tell us a bit more about this? And if it hasn't already been released, when's it likely to be going live? Thank you.
Sarah, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, this is something that we were going to take forward. It's a tool that one of my colleagues has made called River Ranger. And the idea behind River Ranger would be that you could record any pollution spotted in your local river, whilst also still reporting it to the Environment AD to Thames Water. We have encountered some challenges with the tool in terms of linking it up best with the Environment Agency and Thames Water. Thames Water themselves have just created an online pollution tool, but about a couple of months ago, I think, and they are still kind of ironing out some issues with that. So the aim of the River Ranger tool that we were hoping to launch would have created a data set and evidence bank per outfall. So we would have had a historic reference of any time that pollution was spotted and logged. And the Thames Water's tool doesn't currently provide this. So it provides kind of on the spot pollution, and there's been some issues so far where we know that it's been logged by a community member, but it isn't showing up on the map. So we're in conversation with Thames Water currently about how to best streamline this. So the aim would be to have one spot, if pollution is spotted, that then community members can go to one space and report to all necessary people in one go. So we don't want to duplicate any efforts and make it too tricky for anyone who wants to report pollution. So there's ongoing conversations about how best to streamline this at the moment. Do you want to add anything to that, John?
I suppose if Bracknell Council would like to add pressure on Thames Water to support the application, because really what we want to do is allow that transparency of data, transparency of information. We feel our tool does that. We don't feel Thames Water tool does that.
So River Ranger isn't actually dead yet. There's still a chance it may become the tool.
I believe people are using it. It is out there to be used. Is that right, Sarah?
I think it's still live. We just aren't publicising it as the one-stop shop for pollution because we don't want to duplicate any efforts. And there should really be one way to do it that then all of the relevant stakeholders are aware of with that evidence historical bank to it. But I do believe that it is live. I'll see if I can find a link now.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you have a link for it, that'd be quite useful. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right.
I suppose we just, and as Sarah highlighted there, like it's that duplication of effort which makes it not useful for communities and makes it not useful for people. So we need Thames Water to buy into it really to make it the best possible.
Dot, I see your finger, but I just have a direct thing on that one. Apologies. This is to Sarah and John. Do you know the app Fix My Street? Because that's what we are using locally together with our local borough officers for citizens to report potholes, for example. Ideally, we would have as I said, a one-stop shop about reporting anything which is defective, from a spilling bin to allocation of dog poo to rampant youths to river pollution. So maybe you have a look at this app and see if you can find your way into that app as well. And one-stop shop is really would be really advisable. I think this was just a comment, so it's not a true question. So Dot,
it's the same as it's the same with you. Therefore, our question to Thames should be along the line of how they encourage the general public to be on board even, or to report things. Because when it's reported to us by residents, it's normally weeks or days, it's after the foul stuff has happened. That we need to get somewhere within the policies and the structure of reporting, which it as Sarah, you said about it at this point in time, you have not engaged or put it forward out there, but maybe this is where we should be looking at it. The correct way forward, policy wise, it should be there.
Yep, reporting that's a very important thing. I also have I don't have my hand up. I'm being a bit rude right now, but a question might be to you, Tony, but please everybody else chirp in. When Thames Water decide on the investment plan going forward, how is there any consultation with affected parties such as local boroughs? Is there any way to influence the decision on how to get on that investment plan? And is there basically any way to sort of not jump the line, but say, look, we are important too, and not just the over there where your rich shareholders live, for example. Sarah, you have an answer to that?
Yeah, just to quickly mention, one of the forums that can happen in is Thames Water are holding a Your Water, Your Say event next Thursday. So that is the kind of opportunity for anyone who wants to go along. It's free to register. You can make any comments on that upcoming business plan, and they have members of their team there to answer and log any questions. So just to mention that is a potential forum to raise and add pressure to what you want to see happen.
Yeah, but otherwise, John, sorry for interrupting, but that my question is, otherwise, Thames Water's investment decisions are their own to make within the regulatory framework, or is there anything else?
So, I mean, this, to be frank, this is partly where there isn't good governance around this, and particularly there isn't good governance which enables real local input and local championing. So when Thames Water develop their business case, they've got to submit it to, well, they've got to get the support and approval, first of all, the Environment Agency. If the Environment Agency say no, basically they don't do it. Then they've got to go to Ofwat, who have to decide on the affordability for bill payers. So for anything, for Thames Water to get, you know, something through into their next asset management plan, they have to get the approval of those two. And so what Thames Water can do, or any water company, they can put any plan forward they want, but it's only approved by those two organisations. Now, the Environment Agency are open, you know, in theory they should be on our side in terms of rivers, which is good, you know, but there can be disagreements there. Ofwat are not willing or very closed, and they do not take, so they are meant to consider the environment. They don't do it too much in my view, but they really do not take local considerations into their account. It's worthwhile you having a look at the Even Load Catchment Partnership. In the Even Load, I think Thames Water is going to do something like 15 upgrades of a number of sewage treatment works. It was quite high. Ofwat have refused that money, and so the catchment partnership has now disassociated with Thames Water. And it's slightly unfair in many respects, because in a way that's not Thames Water's decision. That's Ofwat's decision, and that's where the governance framework around, you know, water investment is not open and transparent.
Okay, thank you, John. Tony, you have your hand up.
Follow John's point, actually, because I mentioned the fact that, you know, if we had more storm water tanks at the sewage works, this could relieve the problem. It won't solve it, but it could certainly relieve it. But David Harding said the problem of Thames saying we want to put money into this tank to bring it back online was such a complicated exercise. And somehow, if I remember rightly, he said that, you know, when he goes to the environment, they have to somehow measure the consistency of the water and reduce it in order to agree another tank. I mean, it was just like, you know, give up time, frankly. So I'd just like to agree with John. I think that is just hopeless.
I do agree. The process is ridiculous. There is one thing there, though, Tony, and that is, you know, Thames Water built this tank, but it's not currently used because they've let it degrade or for whatever reason. That really highlights that they are probably asset stripping and they're not maintaining their tanks to fit for purpose. You know, that bill payers have already paid for that infrastructure.
Look, I agree, John. I think Thames Water is a dreadful company, and it's been asset stripped by Westpac and all the others, and it's in a terrible state. And I think the regulators should be shot at dawn, frankly, because they let it happen.
So we'll report back to Westminster with your statements, Mr. Councillor from the Conservative Party, Tony Virgo. But
I'm quite happy to do that, actually, to be honest.
Don't worry. No, it's all right. I think we need to be careful that this is our local council. We need to stay on the local level. We know that obviously the regulatory environment is not good, but we need to focus how our council, our executive can do something for us within the framework which we have. Okay. Do we have any other questions to our guests here? Adrian, please.
Yeah. Okay. So we've talked about sort of citizen science a bit here, and maybe sort of going on beyond that. Just wondering what would be required to undertake sort of water quality sampling. What would kind of be the process, the expected cost and time requirements to do this? Is it something we get local groups to do, or do we need to be a bit more professional about it?
Yeah, it's. Oh, sorry. Go on, John.
You go, Sarah. You've probably got a local plan.
Yeah, it's something that community members can do. And there's different ranges of citizen science initiatives available. It kind of depends what your interests were in, really, and what the community were interested in pursuing. So quite commonly we'll have water quality monitoring programs and use little in situ tools to help us with reagents. So you get instant measurements of certain bits and bobs. Equally, we run riverfly training courses, so you can monitor river health through that as well, which has recently happened in Bracknell Forest Council area. So there is scope for citizen science and very applicable for community members to take part. It's just how then we best use that data to support this group in this panel.
How complicated are these tests to operate, Sarah? Are they suitable for, say, school children after a certain age, secondary school?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so this is where I think we can put the incentives, not the Easter egg trail, but the sewage test trail with lovely rewards or something. I think it can be citizen science. Adrian, I think this is a really good point which you brought up. Thank you for that. This can be a part and party of motivating our residents and bringing them on board as well.
Just to add on that, there is sort of some funding out there which we might be able to support you in obtaining. I mean, generally, where we're looking at demonstrating this in other areas, we're looking at about £15,000, and that's, you know, you can do quite a lot with that, including buying all the equipment. It's key to train the people up right, get them monitoring the right place and reporting it in the right way. And and that can be used to go and then drive further investment, both from water companies, environment agency, but also the private sector. We are seeing a big growth in the private sector, particularly in big tech and food and drinks industry, who want to be financing the delivery of nature-based solutions such as constructed wetlands. We're struggling to keep up with demand.
If the reporting is the issue, then the recommendation is develop a simple app on Android and iPhone and get that into the hands of the children, and they love it. Apologies, did I steal your thunder?
It's on the same line, because if you look at, I deal with one that's called Ask at Wildlife, and they are well into the water cleaning with me and boglands and different other things. It's getting the message out. And Sarah, if you can send an email to Christoph so he could send to all members about next Thursday evening, the participation. It's the knowledge, it's getting the message out there is the most important part. It's okay having these little groups, and it's okay us saying that we're not happy with this policy or that policy, but it's coordinating it all in one place. And I do think that is the important part, because the private sector are realizing it's like I'll chuck a rare spoon into there, anaerobic digesters. This is something I've been wanting to get started for a long time with food waste and the rest of it, and the waste waters that we could be utilizing, and sites like this. That again is a follow-on after, but it's getting the first step forward is the communication and getting people on board and changing the planning policies. As I keep reiterating.
You made your point. Dot. Well made and noted, definitely. Tina, you have your hand up.
I have. Thank you, Christoph. Sarah and Christoph. Christoph, you have now my PowerPoint. And this is exactly what Dot is saying. that we need to include all our communities. And I think the project that I've initiated that you will, I'm sure that you'll take part in, will be doing just this. So, you know, we're all on the same level, which is great. Thank you.
Good. Okay. Does anybody else have any questions on to our panelists tonight?
No questions, but I just wanted to say thank you for coming.
Yes, absolutely. I just want to say really thank you very much for taking the time. I mean, it's late, it's dark outside, and you're here to be quizzed by amateurs, which is, I think, thank you very much. It's part of the service to the community which you're doing. We'll certainly have learned a lot of interesting things tonight. I believe we will be back and with follow-up questions at some point, and certainly will approach you to ask you whether you're whether you will be party to the whatever organization we are setting up or which we are suggesting to be set up going forward. I believe Sarah and John, this is what you want to do anyway, so quite likely I'll hear a resounding yes at some point. Thank you very much. We're now moving on to the summary of evidence, point 8. Given the time, we have just 7 minutes left, and it's relatively late. And the amount of data which we have recognized. May I ask all of us to come back with maybe one summary point which you want to note down right now? We have a recording here. We will have we will have minutes of this meeting, so there will be opportunity to precise what we want to take away going forward. I hope everyone is all right with that. And okay, who wants to go first? What's our takeaway points?
It's constructive.
Yeah. I knew we would be saying that, Dorothy.
Yeah. Tina here to say that we all are on the same point. We know what we need to do.
But what's it actually? What do we need to do?
Policy planning.
Have a look at my strategies, Christoph.
There you go. There you go. Okay. Adrian, I think you were first, then Jodie. But Adrian, you put your hand down.
Well, yeah. Well, I guess it's just that, you know, there's data around that we can get, and we can get more data to look into this. And the key point, the bit about it's mainly, you know, in the cut. The main pollution is from the treatment work discharges, or it's likely to be the treatment work discharges as opposed to the drainage. That's quite important, I think, and we weren't aware of that before.
Yeah,
so thanks.
It's a good finding. A good point. Thank you, Adrian. Jodie.
I just wanted to say thank you again. Everything was really comprehensive, and I can't speak for everybody. I was able to understand it, which is good. You know, so thank you for the layman's terms. Yeah, and just while we've been talking, I've signed myself up to that seminar run by Thames Valley Water next week. It's free. I mean, it's on the same day as a full council meeting, but I think I can swing it. I'm going to research a little bit about the phosphorus and the river ranges that you mentioned, Sarah. So thank you very much. I think we're all sort of like got a plan here. Oh, and
Jodie, full council's Wednesday. The meeting, I think, is Thursday, isn't it, Sarah?
Meeting is Thursday. I have a ticket already. I'll be there.
Yeah,
well, I'll be there online.
And
I think that's full
council's Wednesday.
Thursday's over.
I definitely have a meeting Thursday, but they start at different times, so I'll be all right.
Okay, Janet, what's your takeaway point? Apologies, Janet, you're muted at the moment. We can't hear you. Okay. Janet, we'll come back to you. Just interrupt me when your IT is behaving. But just my summary point, just to get that in, to give you a bit time to sort it out, is I'm really I'm pleased to learn about the various routes for community engagement which we have here for our residents. I think personally, well, as a resident as well as a councillor, I didn't know about much of that, and I count myself as relatively attentive and well informed. So leveraging the things which are available anyway and getting our residents on board and demonstrating the impact which they can have on the quality of their local environment would be for me the takeaway point, the activity, the action which our council can take and fundamentally support the quality of life for everyone here in the local area. That would be my takeaway point. Right. Janet, would you like to give it another try? You're unmuted now. Muted, unmuted. I think there's something wrong with your IT. I'm really sorry.
Janet, did you want to put your question in the chat instead if your mic's not working?
Can I just mention one other last part, Christoph? It's Dorothy. Should we not be going out, Sarah? Are you involved, or John, with the with the parishes and the towns, because they do have the ability of their magazines also to get over, and I know Tina, you do a lot down in Sandton, but those that aren't in, you know what I mean. We could have a page in one of their. Each of them have a magazine that goes out quarterly. Something in there, get in touch. You know, that's where it comes in, the communication part of it.
Yep.
Okay.
And
let's think about that.
Yeah, that's something that Christoph and Sarah and I will be discussing, I think, at our meeting in December, if you can get there, Christoph, because that's the one how we engage with all the communities and all our volunteer groups. So
yeah. And maybe then, if you don't mind, Tina, I'd pop along as well because of Wingfield and whatever. We can get the other parishes there.
Yeah, once we've agreed that the strategy is what I've agreed, what I've devised,
what you devised
is going forwards.
Yeah.
Then everybody's going to be in. Dot, you won't move without me telling you. I'm telling you.
You know that, baby doll. Listen, I got the poppies going well. Okay. All right. But yes, thank you.
Brilliant meeting. Brilliant meeting.
Okay. So we are 1 minute to closing time. Let's try to finish on time. Again, thanks to everyone who dialed in, and thanks to our witnesses, but also thank you for our fellow stalwart panelists here who are seeing it through. I think we are making progress. We're getting somewhere. It's a complex topic. If we really think about that, not as simple to solve as dog poo. We'll give it a fair stab, and hopefully we'll come back with a good result. For all of you, for our witnesses who have dialed in, I believe we aim to report to Council in Q1 2024 already. So if you dial into a Council meeting, you might gather the fruits of this evening's effort and see what we have come up with. And again, thank you very much. I wish you all a good night, and I hope to see you soon at the next event. All right.
On to the next meeting.
We're on. Dot and I got another one.
Cheers.
Yeah.